businessmen, young entrepreneurs.
Make sure their taxes are good.
Most people are afraid of taxes. Even the word itself lang.
Why should we pay taxes? We know where our money is going. There's no point in it.
But the thing is, sa lahat naman ng ginagawa natin, halos may kaakibat na tax eh.
Just because they're not following the law doesn't mean that we shouldn't, because then nothing gets done.
ACG wants to help other
Young businessmen, young entrepreneurs.
make sure their taxes are good. They understand what tax is all about.
A fairer playing ground when it comes to business. There's no excuse being ignorant and not knowing about it, because knowledge really is power.
Kailangan lang ma-educate and ma-orient yung mga tao na magbayad ng maayos.
They're really trying to help everyone out by paying less taxes, but legally and paying it right.
Hindi dapat matakot yung mga tao sa pagbabayad doon.
Hey, we're all working together in one ecosystem. So let's make the ecosystem stronger.
Lahat ng gagawin mo ngayon will affect yung tomorrow.
And by paying taxes, we're helping actually everybody.
evening, everyone. We will begin the program in about 2 minutes. Good evening, everyone. Please take your seats as we will begin the main session for this evening shortly. So for those of you who have not grabbed dinner, you may do so. The buffet will still be open for quite some time. So good evening and a warm welcome once again to all our fellow members, special guests, past presidents, president, board members, and of course everyone else here tonight. It is my honor to be your MC for this evening. My name is Indu Badlani, and I am your VP for Public Relations and Communications. So thank you for joining us for our first virtual and hybrid event. We're thrilled to have quite a number of you here present and quite a number of you present online. So without further ado, to begin tonight's event, I would like to introduce to you our VP of Trade and Investment, Mr. Jiten Lalwani.
May we all bow our heads and put ourselves in the presence of the Almighty. We thank you, Almighty, for this great opportunity for all of us to be here and to learn in person. For nothing strengthens the bonds of togetherness more than that. We humbly ask that you shine your light on us, for us to be receptive and to accept all the ideas and learning that are imparted on us today. We pray also that you guide us, for us to be able to learn together and use these learnings for our own and our community's betterment, to make us better leaders and examples in our society. We hope that we are able to share our learnings and experiences into wisdom that we can pass on to others. As we chart this new path and new journey for the future of our country, and also for ourselves, let us not forget to live in the will of the Almighty and continue to practice gratitude and compassion to one another. Amen.
Let's remain standing for the Philippine National Anthem, followed by the Indian National Anthem. Thank you very much. Please take your seats. To begin tonight's evening, allow me to welcome our president, Mr. Rex Darianani, for the welcome remarks.
Sound check. Mr. Mona Brea, our dear past presidents, dear members of the FICCI, my colleagues on the board, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is with pure joy that I welcome each and every one of you to our very first general membership meeting with a guest speaker since 2019. A very warm welcome to our members who have joined us remotely via Zoom. We look forward to the day that we can all together once again be with each other in person. To those joining us by Zoom, we have made every effort to achieve perfection, but do forgive us if for any reason we encounter any technical difficulty, given that this is our first time to do this with a speaker. We are very grateful to our guest of honor and speaker tonight, Mr. Mona Brea, the Philippines tax whiz. Mon is an amazing partner with us in Go Negosyo. We have seen his steady growth in his field of expertise and are very proud of his achievements. His being here with us will solidify our partnership, and we look forward to working together with him in the near future as we work and help the new government succeed together. We have proven in the past that the strong support of the private sector for any government is critical to the success of not only that government, but for our entire country. As always, our chamber will be together hand in hand with other business organizations in providing this much needed support. We are excited for tonight's event, as this is the first for us where we can have a no-holds-barred discussion on one of the biggest challenges of doing business in the Philippines. I am sure all of us will enjoy tonight's meeting, given the caliber of our speaker, who is the subject matter expert on tax and dealing with our dear friends in the BIR. It is time that we all agree that paying the correct taxes is the only way to go to save our companies, given the move to digitalization of the BIR, and most importantly, in our efforts to achieve inclusive growth and poverty alleviation. Tonight shall be a step in the right direction as we learn exactly how to do this and make this happen. Let us strive to become the first chamber to declare that all our members pay correct taxes and do not give anything under the table. Trust me, this is doable. Sit back, relax, and let us learn from Mon as we celebrate our being able to be together face to face. Please do stay back after for more socials. My deep gratitude to our members of the board who have worked very hard in mounting this event. Special mention to our VP for Events, Amrit Mirpuri, who really went for perfection. Deepest gratitude to one of our two roses, VP Indu, who is our amazing Master of Ceremonies this evening. I must say, Indu, after listening to you earlier, you are the best we've ever had. With all due respect to the others who have been MCs. I'm personally ecstatic to have two amazing women on our board. Thank you, Danyavad, maraming salamat po, mabuhay, and namaste.
Thank you very much, Rex. That was very sweet of you. All right, well, once again, a warm welcome to everyone joining us here tonight to the FICCI General Membership Assembly meeting. So, as we all know, we have an exciting program ahead of us, so I won't get in your way. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to warmly introduce to you our speaker, Raymond Abrera, CPA, MBA, with a co-chair of the Ease of Doing Business Task Force on Paying Taxes. He earned his bachelor's degree in accountancy at San Beda University and finished his master's degree in business administration at Ateneo de Manila University. With the TaxWiz mobile app as his brainchild to make tax compliance easier and simpler, he was recognized as one of the 2017 Outstanding Young Persons of the World, 2016 Digital Mover, and 2015 the Outstanding Young Men of Philippines and Asia CEO Young Leaders in recognition of tax advocacy and expertise. So, without further ado, allow me to warmly welcome our guest speaker this evening, Mr. Mon Abrera, CPA MBA, founding chairman and chief tax advisory of Asian Consulting Group. Mr. Mon, please join us on stage. I'd like to also share, he's promoting his book, Got a Question About Taxes, which is located at the back of the room for those of you who'd like to pick one up at the end of the ceremony. The floor is now all yours.
Good evening, everyone. Magandang gabi po. Salamat sa ating Presidente Rex for inviting me. This is actually my first face-to-face event since the pandemic and since I got back from US. Na apparently nagtago daw ako sa US, but actually I took a vacation and I got back February this year. And I am more handsome in person, right? That's why I don't ask them to edit my photos. I want people to feel good when they see me in the surprise. What? Just this morning, I got a chat, or I was tagged in a post that says, or accusing me of having rhinoplasty, nagpatangos daw ako ng ilong. And so I replied by posting, wala akong problema sa pangukong ilong at may 5% excise tax ang rhinoplasty. So, I wouldn't waste 5% tax just to look good because I think I look good already. Again, good evening, everyone. And before I start, I know this is also a relief for everyone to finally sit down together and even I don't think we are observing social distancing because we are all vaccinated, right? Allow me to begin with some numbers which I hope will not terrify you, but at least put everything in context and in perspective. As we face the new, or as we prepare for the new administration, whether you are excited or not, we have to deal with some facts. 12.68 trillion total national debt, 5.024 trillion national budget for 2022, 2.435 trillion total tax collection for the Bureau of Internal Revenue alone, which is almost 80% of the total collections, the balance being for customs and non-operation collections. And this is 17% of the 2.08 target last year. Why are these important? Well, I'm not yet done. 98% of our total collection, ladies and gentlemen, is voluntary. If we decide to close all BIR offices around the country for cost-cutting purposes, hypothetically, I've been quoted for saying we should abolish BIR. I'm not saying that anymore. But what I am saying, hypothetically, if we close down all BIR offices nationwide, we will still be collecting 98% of the 2 trillion pesos because we are paying voluntarily without audit. And only 1.5% of the total collection is contributed by your favorite, PAN FUN, FDDA, or if you're not familiar with it, Preliminary Assessment Notice, Final Assessment Notice, and FDDA, which is the Final Demand and Deficiency Assessment. Bear in mind that regardless of the audit or letter or whatever BIR will send you, does not result to a tax liabilities unless you give up or give in. The ball is with you. Or, if you ask your lawyers, they want to throw it to the court, which will be more expensive to you. Tonight, I won't give you additional cost. I want you to realize that whether you are the CEOs, the founders, the CFOs, you have actually the power not just to correct your books, but to get rid of BIR audit without going through hell and all those compromises. What was not mentioned in the introduction is that in 2009, I was assigned as a Bureau of Internal Revenue Examiner, Revenue Officer 1 with 12,000 pesos gross monthly compensation. From Caloocan region, well, Valenzuela, which was moved to Caloocan, which was now in EDSA, I was reassigned to South Quezon City, RDO 39. And I've handled almost all cases. But at the same time, to complete my master's at the Ateneo Graduate School, I was forced to take BIR as my case study. Therefore, if you've read articles that I have written in the last 10 years, I was the one who authored the blueprint for genuine tax reform. It's not just an advocacy. It was my paper in the Ateneo Graduate School. Therefore, I really did use data. And if you're following me in social media, rather than emotions, I always use numbers. So I don't care about bashers. They don't understand my statistics, the percentages, the impact to collection, how to negotiate with BIR, because most of the time we use emotions. Gigil tayo, galit tayo. When I deal with BIR, I simply walk into their offices. I make sure I look good. I make sure I look better than what they see on TV or what they read on papers. And most of the time, they will tell me, "Sir, kayo po ba yung in-interview sa CNN?" Yes po, RDO. Yes po, RD. So can we now settle this? We will never even discuss the assessment. Because when you talk to examiners, they will throw to you all the sheets. And it's never ending. But when you talk to the RDs, to the commissioners, they will talk about their targets. They will pass on you the burden to help them hit the targets. Very few of them will even insinuate compromises because they have a standard, I don't know if it is a script, a slogan, or really a principle para sa bayan. Some of the RDOs will even hold on to their rosaries and pray Hail Marys while talking to you. But do not be persuaded or do not get distracted. If you meet BIR officials, make sure you get out of the room, not just alive, but not compromised. Because the moment you get a record of compromises, you stay in the list. They will keep coming back to you. So, I would like to proceed to further details. Why is my assessment always more than my total equity? How come the assessment is more than my sales? Why don't they lower it down? Have you checked or compared the previous assessments, let's say the last 3 years, with your current assessments? The items are almost identical. I'll leave it at that. But for purposes of numbers, almost 60% of the total tax collections are actually from income tax. That's why, at the end of the day, the most important thing is not the truth, but substantiation, or how far or to what extent you can prove or substantiate your claims claimed in your audited financial statements. And contrary to public impression that I have something against those in the Farmali, because when Rex called me, I thought it's about Farmali. I said, Rex, is this about Farmali? Because I avoided talking about it. If you notice, I stopped being interviewed after I left for US, because it's also unfair for them, because I also know the political climate. But at the same time, there were gross negligence or errors that I would like to share with all of you to start the discussion on how you can get rid of audit. I hope what you will see or what you have heard is not something that you are guilty of. And don't deny it. Because unless you are in denial, you cannot get rid of BIR. BIR will get rid of your money. Let's watch the excerpt of that investigation where I discussed the assessment. Wala palang signal.
That's 2.2 billion purchases. Sa 7.2 billion purchases, Mr. Chairman, lumalabas po 3.2 billion lamang po ang mayroong ang nakadeklara sa BIR at bilang kanilang purchases. Tulad po na nabanggit nyo kanina, sa 3.2 ibig sabihin sa 3.4 billion ay hindi nakadeklara kay BIR pero diniklara nila sa kanilang audited FS bilang purchases, Mr. Chairman. Kaya po siguro dapat po ang tanungin po natin yung gumawa ng FS, saan ang galing yung 3.4 billion dahil sa kanilang summary list of purchases, 3.2 billion lamang at sa kanilang summary list of importations mula sa Bureau of Customs, nasa 600 million lamang po ang importation. Lumalabas, 3.8 billion lamang po ang na-report sa BIR at Customs, pero 7.2 billion po ang kanilang ni-report, Mr. Chairman, sa kanilang audited FS at para mapababa din ang kanilang tax. At nabanggit niyo din po kanina, Mr. Chairman, dun sa summary list of purchases, linawin ko lamang po, hindi po ito yung inventaryo na binibenta nila. Yung summary list of purchases po, may iba't ibang mga expenses silang nakasama. Kasama na rin po dun yung 6.8 million na Porsche at 4.1 million na Toyota. At hindi nga po nakasama si Tiger Film Marketing Corporation, Mr. Chairman, sa listahan ng kanilang mga suppliers. Bagkus meron kaming nakuhang supplier na ang pangalan Evermore po, Mr. Chairman, 2.9 billion at Acme Pinnacle 2.7 million. Yung iba pong kanilang mga purchases halo-halo na po sa fast food,
Okay,
sa
we cut it there.
Grocery.
Question. Where do you think BIR gets information when they make a tax assessment? Anybody? Where do you think BIR gets information when they make tax assessment? Rex, come on, throw me something. Where did they get the info? Third party. Third party. You! From what I've stated, where do you think is the error? The taxpayer. You can easily blame your accountant, but who's the one facing the case or being investigated here? It's not the accountant. Us, taxpayers. Therefore, what was the first mistake? We're too busy growing our business. We're too busy making money cost-cutting. We're too busy making sure our margin is enough to give returns to our investors. We're too busy expanding, going international, and we just let our accountants file whatever they can file, and because it's already deadline, they throw whatever information to BIR. That's the first bullshit that we are all guilty of, and we just blame our accountant, fire our accountant, or they resign because you keep blaming them or cursing them for the error they made. But the main source of information of BIR are those that we provide to them. If I give you money, would BIR know? Would they know? They will never know. Therefore, whatever we report to our returns to this freaking audited FS, audited but they will never believe what is in there, and the schedules. Take note, they were the one who submitted the summary list of sales and purchases. And the purchases has 3.4 billion discrepancy for what is reported on their tax return. Sa kanila galing yun. That's why I might look intelligent or galing, di ba? But in reality, it's a stupid mistake. It's too obvious. You don't need years of experience. Let me remind you, I'm a former examiner. If there is something that I can really brag about and I have leverage on, I don't know Senator Gordon personally. I don't know the Farmali guys personally. I was just interviewed by ANC and the Senate watched it. The following day, I was not invited. I was actually summoned. And I was given all the data, all those returns and FS. We just did an objective assessment. But why does it appear like I am so familiar, like you're really the expert? Ang galing mo, buong Pilipinas, naintindihan nila yung nangyari because the error was too obvious. Gross negligence on, sasabihin nyo, part of the accountants, on us. Because we let those returns go to BIR, those SLSPs or schedules go to BIR when we knew they're not true. We don't have documents. And using suspicious or fake suppliers na walang opisina, cannot be located. You should know that the system of BIR is like the tellers, the banking system. They just type your name or your TIN number, they get to see all the transactions. Yung sinasabing open cases, madalas palpak yun. Nag-file ka pero lalabas pa rin o hindi ka nag-file. That's why it's always, the burden of proof is on us. The only time that the burden of proof transfers to BIR is when, next slide, is when they file tax evasion case. Pag nasa korte na. That's why, if you look at the statistics or the more than 1,000 tax evasion cases under this administration, or the thousands of tax evasion cases filed in the last 3 administration, less than 1% is won by BIR. Almost all tax cases, panalo yung taxpayer saka yung lawyer. Because it takes years bago matapos yung kaso. And most of the time, out-of-court settlement din. Sinabi ng korte, mag-usap na nga kayo, bala kayo sa buhay nyo. I have friends who are mga RTC judges, they hate me and BIR. Why? Tambak dakit namin, abreya, ano ba naman yan? Liko-liko nagpa-file kayo, tapos di kayo umaatin. Di kayo nagpapakita sa sala ko. Sabi ko, ba't ako naman sinisisi mo? Ikaw lagi ko nakikita sa news eh. Ikaw may kasalanan kung ano sinasabi mo eh. In reality, BIR is losing a lot of collections simply because the main, supposedly, to prosecute tax evaders, to collect from those who are really not paying, they are unable to collect because these are those with battery of lawyers, army of lawyers, and resources. So sinong hinahabol nila? Eh, tayong ayaw pumunta sa korte. Tayong willing mag-settle. But you know, you can settle. And I'll teach you tonight. I don't want you to go home desperate and with the same frustrations. If there's one thing that I can promise you guys, and of course, especially for Rex, I want you to have not just hope, but faith in yourself that you can continue doing business. You don't need to be a saint, but you don't need to be indebted or at the mercy of any BIR official. Whoever is the commissioner, whoever will be the director or the RDO, that you can continue to do business and pay your taxes, get audited, and settle the cases without compromising. Look at this statistics or the data. Ang daming kaso. Have you heard how many cases were settled or how much was collected? Puro estimated tax liabilities lang ang nasa media o nababasa natin. Because most of them nagdi-disappear na lang o na-settle na, we don't know what happened. But this is the worst case scenario that I want for you to experience. Let's not go to court. Let's not wait for them to file tax evasion cases. And before I proceed, let me scare you a bit. What is in our tax code? Section 253 is very clear. The tax code provides that if we willfully evade or defeat paying taxes, we can go to jail. If you are not a Filipino citizen, you can be deported. If you are a government official or employee, you can be dismissed now and be perpetually disqualified. If you are a CPA, your license can be revoked. And why for how many years? Hundreds na ba? But parang wala naman nangyayari. Because in a way, our fear of BIR and the guilt na baka ako yung sunod na habulin, na may mali din ako. No, whatever we do, sinumpisal ko na yan kay Father, whatever we do, they keep coming back, so we just have to give in na lang. All those lies, all those horror stories, all those misconceptions, all those myths, led us to this day, to this point, na mas swapang ka, mas mandaraya ka, mas ligtas ka. But the reality is, parang gulong ang buhay. 20 taong kang ino-audit, naglalagay ka, kala mo magbarkada na kayo. Nag-change ng administration, may nagalit sa'yo, malakas sa administrasyon, malakas doon sa commissioner. Nagbigay ng information, it may not even be reliable. Kinasuhan ka ng tax evasion. Can they do that? Can they do that? Yes, because the BIR is given the mandate to assess and collect. And whenever they get the information, the time that they got that information, they get 10 years to assess and collect. So regardless if you feel like, oh, we're friends already with BIR, I settled already, they can still go back to you. That is the truth. So what is the best strategy? The best strategy is to give them an impression or to make them believe that you are compliant and that you're not cooperating with the shenanigans and all these halubalus that they want to do. You need to show them that you respect them, but at the same time, you have to earn their respect that they will not even insinuate or try to ask money from you. Is that possible? Well, I cannot say modesty aside because I don't have much of that. For the last 10 years, never in our experience that they ask or that we compromise. And that's regardless who's in the helm of power, whoever is the commissioner, the director. But at the same time, you have to be familiar with the process before you can demand for due process. When you receive a letter, how many of you does actually know what to do? Or most of us will just ask our accountant to take care of it. Ask our lawyer to meet the RDO. We don't even read it. Don't you know that at least in our experience, there are a lot of invalid audit, invalid assessment. And the Supreme Court ruled already that there cannot be valid assessment unless there is a valid letter of authority. But how do we know whether it's valid or not? Don't you know that if the examiner assigned is not the one, the examiner that issued the law to you, that is a violation? That if it was sent to you or you receive it beyond 30 days of the date of the letter of authority, that it is invalid? That if there are errors, dumi, erasures on the face of the letter of authority, that makes the letter of authority invalid? So in short, na-miss nyo kagad yung unang-unang pagkakataon to protect or defend yourselves because you didn't care. Tinapon mo na lang sa accountant mo or sa lawyer mo. Don't you know that if they throw to you a table assessment without even looking at your records, you don't need to file a complaint. You can let them know that that is a violation of the due process. Eh, Mon, pwede na ako, ready na ako mag-settle eh. Just make sure when you settle, there's no PR or for the boys. Because that will keep coming back. Yung sinasabi nilang black book, it still exists. Not because the BIR is corrupt, but because we are letting it. We are still cooperating with it. Based on our experience, for most of those who are running to us asking for our help, the first question is, na lagi kong tinatanong, did you pay under the table? Did you compromise? Most of the time, nahihiya sila. We cannot resolve the problem unless you tell me where you made mistake or what went wrong. We have to know it. Were you not able to provide receipts? No, they just issued subpoena. You know that you can always contest and reply. So going back to the letter of authority, the first thing that you need to do when your office receives a letter of authority is to make sure that the letter of authority was received by you or your authorized representative. Otherwise, it's already questionable and can be invalidated. Wait, who's the authorized representative? Who among us did file an authorized representative to the BIR? May you please show of hands. Who among those who are here did file an authorized representative to your RDO? None. Therefore, no one else is authorized to receive any letter from BIR except you or the registered taxpayer or president. That's why I keep saying, don't you know that whenever the BIR writes a letter, it's always addressed to the president? Unless you make your driver the president, you are free of liabilities. Therefore, you have to take it seriously. Do not skip that. Because the mere acceptance of any letter from BIR binds you or makes you exposed or liable to the entire audit and investigation process. So, as reiterated by the World Bank, if we want fairness, fairness is not just about lowering the rates. Fairness is about making sure it's fair for a corporation, for an individual, for the poor, for the rich. That's why when one of the candidates proposed for a wealth tax, I said, I don't think that's fair. Because not all wealthy people are corrupt or it's ill-gotten. Probably a lot of them paid already taxes, so why do you have to impose tax on them just because they're wealthy? Is it a sin to be wealthy, to be rich? So it has to be fair to all. Do not discriminate those who make more money. Do not discriminate those who are more famous. Don't discriminate those with bigger corporations. There's nothing wrong in making a lot of money. What is wrong is that when we are not fair, when we know for a fact that we withhold 100,000 pesos from all our employees and we only pay 10,000 pesos income tax. That I think is obviously unfair. So we're not talking about here of what is right, what is correct, what is perfect. Let's just try to be fair. So that when you talk to BIR, they will also have that sense that you may not be giving anything for the boys or PR, but you would also actually want to help them collect taxes. You know what I do whenever I meet RDs and RDOs? I research about them. Are they top performers? What is the recent scandal or any good news about their RDOs na awardan ba yung RDO o RD? Was there any recent tax evasion case? I talk about them before I ask them to reconsider or accept our voluntary offer. And I do not meet any BIR official without a formal letter. And I put an amount and my signature as a proof of my sincerity and risking my credibility that I want this case settled, but this is the only amount that is fair for the taxpayer, for me, and for BIR. We cannot talk about the laws or technicalities or whatever regulations. Because if I call all those examiners and give them an exam, I'm not sure if all of them will pass. So we cannot be self-righteous. So we go to what is fair. So that's a middle ground, di ba? Now, since we're talking about fair, let's go back, look back about the CTRP of the outgoing administration, the Comprehensive Tax Reform. Did you know that in the process, I don't know if you saw me, but I'm one of those promoting and going around the country with DOF, with BIR, with Congressman Salceda, promoting train law and the rest of the packages. But I was also the only person who warned them that there might be an inflationary impact if we impose excise tax, because that was never part of the original package 1 or train law. And I think for a while I was banned from BIR because the higher officials got mad. He's so talkative, ang dami niya. He's saying a lot of things. Is he really helping the government or he's just criticizing the government? But I had to say it. If I did not say it, I have lost my credibility as an advocate. So what's wrong with this comprehensive tax reform? I'm not saying it's wrong, but there's something wrong. Not everything is wrong. Train law. Imposing 35% is absolutely wrong. Especially with the CREATE law that lowered the corporate income tax from 30 to 20 for small businesses and 25 for regular corporations. That is what? 25, 20 versus 35%. That's a 15% disparity. Undue advantage of a corporation over individual. In a just and equitable tax system, there should be no significant difference whether you're an individual or corporation when it comes to income tax. At least that is the global standard of equitable tax system. With the imposition of 35% under the train law, we discriminated individuals, professionals who might be earning more than 8 million because you call them ultra-rich. versus corporation who will only be paying 20 or 25% under the CREATE law. Do you realize it now? And that is very important if we want to promote fairness and equitable tax system. We cannot just say, they earn naman more eh. So, that's probably the reason why a lot of individuals are now registering OPC or one-person corporation. Because for the same taxable income, if you're registered as OPC, you pay less, 20 or 25. Versus if I am an individual, Mon Abrea, and I make more than 5 billion, I pay almost 25%. Sa corporation, 20. Pag more than 8 million, sa individual, 35% na. Pero sa corporation, 25% lang. Do you see the difference? That is not fair. And that has to be corrected or repealed. Then, we hear about digital taxation. We hear about the PIFITA. You know, the PIFITA is good. That is package 4. Because it will lower the 20% final tax on interest income of savings. But also, it will standardize all final tax on passive income. Right now, the dividends that we receive as shareholders are being taxed at 10%. It will become 15%. CGT is now 15% already under the train law. But for those who are investing in the stock market, that's a very, 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 very good news. Because PIFITA or Package 4 proposes to lower the stock transaction tax from 0.6%, which was increased by train law. Under the train law, 0.5% lang siya for every transaction. Naging 0.6, tumaas ng 20%. Under the PIFITA proposal, they intend to lower it to 0 to encourage Filipinos to invest in the stock market. So there are really good and not so good. So it's important that we don't just know it, that we take advantage of the benefits provided or allowed in the tax code, because there's nothing wrong to avoid taxes as long as it is allowable or clearly in the law. Now, going back to audit, Mon, you have to help us how to get rid of audit, because that's why we're here, other than the alcohol which Rex is offering until thy kingdom come. We want to end our miseries with BIR. Or let's talk about not being self-righteous. Again, our mistakes. Why we are in this problem? Because we put ourselves here. So first one, the common mistakes. What are these mistakes that apparently no one is telling us? Mali naman pala ako, but nobody's telling me. The first one is, as I have mentioned earlier, you ignore the letters from BIR. You don't read it. Sabi ni Rex, sanay na ako dyan. Sa sobrang sanay siya, hindi niya nakita. Mali pala yung signatory. Hindi, ang nakapirma yung janitor ng BIR. I just realized the signatory is not the authorized director. Or the examiner is someone else. It was given by Mon Abrea. But the examiner in the letter of authority is not Mon Abrea. That's already invalid. So, the first thing that we need to do is to really know our rights, read the letter, and make sure we reply. Before we assign it to someone else, make sure we reply. We acknowledge it, we clarify everything. There's an attachment. 100 documents required to be submitted. You have to throw it back to them. Hey, there's a 100 items here. Which one I need to forward to you? Second, you don't need to provide all the original or soft copies. Can you just go to my office? I'll prepare the boxes of documents. Can you do that? Yes. Because the audit should not also interrupt or disrupt your business. Can they go and just start auditing? Oh, we have letter of authority. No, it's not warrant of arrest or whatsoever. They need to coordinate with you, and you need to have the allowance or to give schedule when you are available to provide all the documents. But let me repeat, you can ask them to go and see you in the office rather than photocopy and provide them all the documents, which more likely they won't even open the boxes. Okay? Well, sometimes there's They were saying na, oh, just provide a small room without air condition and provide any boxes. Even entries, you will realize they won't comment. They did not open the box at all. Diba? So let them do their job. I think the reason why we are in this situation is because we are all trying to avoid our responsibility. They have a job to check on us. We have a job to comply. But in one way or another, nobody wants to do their job. So let them do their job. But at the same time, let's be fair as well. I know everyone wants to cut on taxes to save. Yes, I am with you. But if you don't read your letter of authority, if you start negotiating without even making sure that the letter of authority is valid, that there's a valid assessment, that's on you. You cannot blame the system. You cannot blame me. You have to blame yourself because you did not check on your rights and make sure that it is within the due process. Second, a lot of us are threatened by subpoena. Subpoena is not asking you to go to court. Subpoena is not about opening your bank accounts. Subpoena is about, remember the letter of authority? There's an attachment, right? If you did not clarify of the listings there, which ones are required or that you can provide, the subpoena will be issued without you knowing what you will provide. You have to clarify first which one is applicable to you, which one will be provided in soft copy, in hard copy, or which one they can check in your office. But do not receive the notices and the subpoena if you have complied already. You are not required to receive it when you have complied already. But how do you prove that I have submitted? And by the way, you are not required to give to them copies of your tax returns. There's already an issuance that clearly states that whatever is submitted to BIR in their system, they cannot demand a copy from the taxpayer because it's already in their system. In fact, if you lost the tax return, you can ask for a duplicate from BIR. Did you know that? But you're afraid to go to BIR, right? You're afraid to ask for your records, right? You're afraid to ask whether, do I have an open case? Don't you know that it's like an executive checkup for your health? Every year you have to check your records with BIR. Write a letter. Ask to check their system if you have any open cases. Because if there's any, provide right away the substantiation to prove them wrong so that they can correct it. You don't need to file again just because there's no record in their system. Again, these are basic, but for some reason, we keep committing the same mistakes, and we keep feeling guilty all the time. When in fact, it's clear as the sun. Someone is trying to take advantage of us, or we miss some of the important information that led us to believe that we are guilty or that we have committed something wrong. Now, regarding the tax evasion, let's go back to, next slide, the tax evasion. I'll just have to emphasize when they can actually use it against you. For some reason, for honest mistake and declaration over declaration, as long as it doesn't reach 30%, it's still not yet a prima facie evidence for tax evasion. What does that mean? If they throw to you an assessment that is just to prove that it's beyond 30%, it can be an harassment just to threaten you. Why? Ano ulit yung two information? What are the two sources of information of BIR? Rec said, third party. But the most important one, us. Assuming we listen attentively tonight and we never provide any information that will harm us, that will cost us more money, but they use third-party information or a competitor or a previous accountant. They use some information. This you have to remember. These are not admissible in court. They are not prima facie evidence. Therefore, later I will show you a case study. They can give you 200 billion assessment from third party. God knows they're also praying that you will be scared. because you can just protest and dismiss that. They need to verify from each supplier, have it notarized before it becomes admissible and a substantiation for their assessment. No assessment will be valid without a valid authority. Remember the letter of authority? Without a legal basis, meaning it has to be crystal clear that there is a provision of the tax code, a regulation that you have violated, and that there is a substantiation. Has to be notarized and verified. A mere third-party information, third-party listing, etc. is not enough. And we have handled a lot of cases, billions, more than half of the assessment, third-party. Bye-bye. The thing is, the burden of proof is on us. So how do we now protest that? Get our records from the suppliers. Can you just certify? Can I ask a copy so that I can answer this? Because if you go to court, the burden transfers to them. But we don't want to go to court. So remember, during an audit or assessment, whether we like it or not, the burden of proof is on us. Don't blame your accountant because we provided the information. If they use third-party information, we can just dismiss it. The burden of proof will be on them because they need to go to court to make it a legit basis of their assessment. But again, we need to make sure we know this, we understand this, and do not give them the reason to go back to us. Don't give them that incentives. Because if the moment we start bribing, it's like Pringles. Who knows Pringles? Who eats Pringles? Pringles? Once you pop, it won't stop. Once you bribe, they feel, they will suddenly realize that they are that you are their godfather or godmother. That every year they will keep going back to you. So, whenever you get billions of assessment and you are tempted to settle, let's just settle na lang. This is a long, tiring, winding road. It will never end. Let's just give in. The moment you make that decision, it is as if you got married to them. It's a long-term engagement unless you divorce them. So ladies and gentlemen, if you are already married to them because you have paid under the table somewhere down the road in the past, tonight I hope you will decide to divorce them so that it will cut that string or tie so that they will no longer ask for under the table PR or bribe money. As I have mentioned, for a decade we've been dealing with them, and probably because of our advocacy, probably because I am more public and they're afraid that I'll talk about them on TV or on in my article, they never, believe me, not a single, not an insinuation, ask for bribe. But it's not enough. You need to make sure you know the facts, that you have the documents, that you know the due process. Someone asked me, can you settle a case? Wala pang assessment? It's up to you if you want. But you should have a basis of your offer. Why? Because at the end of the day, it's your record that is more important. Remember, for every under the table you give them, it disappears. It doesn't form part of your compliance. Later, we will emphasize what are these important thresholds or considerations for your sake, not for BIR. Under the table for you, it's like to just end it. But actually, it's a long term. It's a marriage. So I hope, hopefully, after some case studies and persuasions that I'll be doing tonight, you can get rid of BIR because you decided to. You have the will already. Let me cite case study 1, common findings in dealing with the BIR. This is a 20.6 million total assessment. Isa sa pinakamaliit na na-handle. One of the smallest assessments we've handled. Common findings, disallowed expenses due to non-withholding. They want you to withhold even the payment to the Carabao, to the jeepney drivers, kasi you keep riding the jeep, so they want to withhold. Can you withhold? Facebook, can you withhold? Karinderya, cafeteria, can you withhold? No, you have to withhold for everything. So they disallow. Second, undeclared sales due to third-party information, 39.2 million, which resulted to 20.6 million. If you remember the facts that I have shared with you, they saved 96% because we only paid 850,000. Third party, bye-bye. Non-withholding, just pay the withholding. Bye-bye. That's it. And yet, you will see this like every assessment. They keep using that. So you have to know how to protest. So do I need a lawyer? No, you just need somebody you can trust. And even your in-house accountant, as long as he or she is updated and trustworthy. Kasi baka nangungumission din niya. They might be getting also commission. And you know, the commissioner is not just the commissioner in BIR. You might be working with a lot of commissioners. Your accountant, your lawyer, whoever is assisting you, your friend, your kumpare, they're all commissioners. Because they get piece and bites of the pie. Somebody says it can be settled 10M. But it was passed on to another person. Oh, 15M. It was passed on to the accountant. 17.5M. Then, talk to you. 17.5M, sir. We can settle. 7.5 goes to all those people who learn about the assessment. Unfortunately, when you pay the 17.5, the 7.5 goes to the commissioners. The 10M, half only will go to the government. The rest unreceipted, or PR, or under the table. Next example. This is my favorite. 26 billion. The one who received this is in Australia. I'm not referring to BBM. He was in Australia. He called me, my goodness. You know, when my phone rings, I don't really want to answer. When it texts, Rex, 26 billion. He wants to sell everything na and don't go back to the Philippines. I said, chill. Just forward the assessment. 12.2 million non-payment of improperly accumulated earnings tax. Good thing under the CREATE law it was removed already. So no more 10% IAT. But 50.3 billion undeclared sales, third-party information. You know the drill. Bye-bye. 26 billion, we paid 3 million. I did not even appear or visited BIR. I just sent a letter and a smiley face. 0605. Done deal. Does it make you feel a little better? Are the assessments familiar? Do you get acquainted to them or they're already your nightmares? Third-party listing, non-withholding, undeclared. That's why I started with the formally case. Because theirs is glaring. They submitted summary list of purchases not even close to the purchases they claimed in their audited FS. And this has nothing to do with whoever is involved in the case or corporation. A matter of fact, they submitted an audited FS with total purchases not equal or close to the information they also submitted to BIR. It's suicide, ladies and gentlemen. That is suicide. Because BIR doesn't need to do anything. You provided them already the wrong or the unreconciled information. So in short, how many of you look at the attachment or the documents or the request before you sign a check? How many of you look at it once, twice? Before you sign a check, you look at the documents. That's the same thing that you need to do before a return is sent to BIR. Is that clear? Never ever send a piece of information without looking at it as a check, because that return is equivalent to billions of pesos that you will be paying later on once you get audited, simply because you did not pay attention. Simply because you're busy making money. And for whatever you have earned, 10% goes to BIR because you gave them all the information that they use as leverage against you, against me, against all of us. Diba? May perjury pa dun eh. So ang daming pwede ikaso sa atin just because we did not pay attention. So now, Mon, you might be saying that because you get away with it. You get to settle it because you're Mona Brea. Let me show you some considerations or basis or thresholds which all of us or any one of us can use. First, this may not be realistic, but what I'm saying is, when you write a letter and communicate to BIR, you have to be a bit scientific, professional, or at the very least, confusing. Don't be at their mercy and trying to befriend them and trying to be emotional about it. And I know some people, I won't say the nationality, they even tore their clothes. They wear the oldest, the ugliest, and they want to look really, really bad before they face BIR. Mukhang kawawa. Gone are the days that you need to look like that so that you get a lower amount of settlement. Use this. Did your payment increase by 20% or close to 20%? Use that. RD, despite the decline in our sales, our voluntary payments still increased by 15%, 20%. So that they know what you're talking about. Oh, but your income tax payment is lower this time. How come? But it is above threshold, at least above 2%. Oh, your VAT, do you have all the receipts? Oh, I think the input, we will audit that. That's above 3% threshold. You have to make them see, make them believe, give them that impression that you are ready to settle, pay voluntarily, but on your terms, not theirs. Because you have basis. You have information that will practically, more or less, convince them that you are there, ready to help them collect the taxes to hit their targets, but not on their terms. But this will be your biggest enemy. There is a saying, history repeats itself. I won't use that because I think you're already doing that. We are all doing that already. History will haunt us because if we gave them gifts the last 3 years, we have to deal with that on the first year that you divorced them. Isn't it the same in a relationship? It's a bitter thing when you just got divorced. Expect that. So what does it mean? If you want to go clean or straight, like what they say cold turkey, make sure you have the 20% increase or at least the 5% threshold. Otherwise, it will be hard to go straight or clean because they will try to convince you, no, this is better. Just give us, we give you lower. But it's like divorcing and again, getting married to the same person that you got divorced. So please, ladies and gentlemen, before you blame the president, Russia and Ukraine, look at the mirror. Who's deciding? Who's giving the information? Who's feeding the crocodile? I have a friend who lives obviously at Forbes, and she almost killed me. She was like telling me, Mon, I saw one BIR official. She was carrying Birkin. Is that Birkin? Anyway, then I said, what's that? You know how much is that? It's almost $1 million. That one, I exactly know that. Why are you angry? She's a BIR official. How much is she earning? Wait. Didn't you just pay her last week? Oh, shit. So how do we settle? We have already the information. We know already the facts. More or less, we have an idea that it's possible. Pay the right taxes, you deal with them, no under the table. First is, before you talk to them, let me rewind. We just agreed. I'm assuming we all agreed that you don't want to be married with them anymore. So we are all agreeing that we need to pay attention or close attention to whatever information or paper or document that we will send to BIR. The same way, whatever they send to us. Agree? Uy! Agree? Yes. Second, we know how to deal with BIR, the thresholds, the process, the possibilities, how do you invalidate, and the assessments that you can protest or just dismiss and ignore. But that middle ground is, how do you deal with them? How do you exactly compromise a 2 billion, 20 billion, 100 billion assessment down to what I just showed you? 99% savings, 96% savings. That's impossible, Mon. Oh, yeah. Do you want me to show you the company and everything? I can't. I have NDA. I might lose my job. Okay? This is the first step. You receive a letter. Oops, I have an audit. If you have an in-house accountant, come here. Don't eat lunch. Not even merienda. You can take coffee. And you cannot go home. And don't take a bath until you reconcile this year, because we're being audited. You have to know exactly where you made a mistake or what information you have given them that either it's not supported, overstated, or understated. In short, diagnose first yourself. Don't wait for their assessment. Second, do not, for the second time, do not provide them additional information that will kill you. So make sure whatever they ask from you, you check first before you provide to them. Because the problem is, for the second time around, we made a mistake by just giving them information. When the audit begins, we give them again more information that incriminates us. Worst, usual script. Oh, we really made a mistake. There was really new OR. No, it's hard to get receipt from suppliers. You know, all of us in this industry are doing that. What is that? Confession? You should go to church. You do not confess to an examiner. Mon, you just said we have to be honest. Not with an examiner. And I did not tell you to do that during audit. During audit, you have to be BBM. No comment. I have a policy before accepting any client or case that I need to talk to the owner. Rex, ano talaga problema? What's the problem? I don't know. Go back when you know already your problem. Don't drag me into a problem which is not even clear to you. You want to pay me what? Talent fee? I need to be creative and to know what you don't know. But if you get a consultant who will accept that, they're just after money, not to help you. Another case, even close to me, that's the problem. I have a lot of friends now, more and more friends. I don't even know their names, but they are my friends. Mon, I only have 5 million budget. Help me naman settle this. Did you compromise last year? I don't know. How much did you settle last year? I don't know. I also don't know. You need to have all the information because they will use it against you. I'll give you a typical example. There was a time that I really had a hard time because the one in charge was not exactly a fan of mine. Kinda, the guy doesn't like me. So he really made it difficult. Letter, ignore, nothing. Set an appointment. They don't give us a schedule. Dude, believe me. I walk in his office. I did not even knock the door. Open and go. Good morning, RD. Oh, Mona Brea. Have a seat. RD, sorry, I have a bad news. We paid you 5M last year. We don't have budget anymore. Can we just settle this at this amount? But we can no longer continue the arrangement, the previous arrangement. You know what he said? Para sa bayan, bro, you know, I really support your advocacy, ah. We don't really ask, eh. You know, when they give, you're a former examiner, you know that. We don't really ask, okay, I'll prepare the 0605. Para sa bayan. So if you're having a hard time, para sa bayan. they will be they will have a hard time argue with you. You want to pay na para sa bayan. And I just don't have a proof now. But and if you will see all the letters I sent to BIR, even to Commissioner, there's a last statement there. We would really like to help you hit your targets or help you collect more taxes. And our company is with you in making sure that we pay the right taxes. Sometimes I sign, most of the time I don't. Why? I need to make sure the one who will receive it is a fan. But if a basher, don't put my name, okay? And in some cases, don't even mention my name. You might be in more trouble. But we get to settle it regardless. But you need to know. I mean, is it really who you know? It depends. If you have kind of fixed and improved your record, you don't have any more track record of paying under the table or compromises. Doesn't matter anymore who's handling it. But if you really have a bad record, it's important. You know that there are cases that we move them out of their district or region just because they really have a bad record. And sometimes, some companies, they do this. They ask their lawyer, just transfer me from Malabon. Just transfer me to Baguio. After 2 years, it has not yet been transferred. A lot of open cases, a lot of pending cases, blah, blah, blah. Wrong! Don't transfer it outright. Just open a branch in Baguio. After 6 months, switch the status. Make the Baguio the head office. Make the Malabon the branch. After 6 months, close the branch. So, they'll never know it. They don't care about the branch because the branch doesn't pay taxes. Oh, you didn't know that? Make sure if you have a branch, you don't pay taxes other than 500 pesos annual registration. Centralize it to the head office so that you only receive one letter of authority. Because if you split distribute the payment of withholding taxes, the VAT and all of them will audit you. Because you give them jurisdiction. There's a flow of taxes or payment. So make sure if you have 100 branches, the only one paying taxes is the head office. And avoid tagig. Avoid. No, I'm just saying avoid those with high targets. Because sometimes they use it as leverage against you. Why will you burden me if you have X billion of target? But sometimes, well, this is not true anymore. Before, if it's in the province, they ask less. But now it's no longer true. Because they are being reshuffled. So, same faces. The next thing you know, they are in Boracay, they are in Nueva Ecija. So what's the best strategy? Fix yourself. Fix your records. Can you clean the books? I don't know. Just don't show the books. There's nothing in the books. Or just pay 50,000. Can they subpoena you? No. Tell them already. You will pay 50,000. There are options. There are legal means. There are compromises which doesn't make you guilty of tax evasion. Compromise settlement. Compromise settlement is actually the same as voluntary payment, except that there is a basis, 40% of the basic. They waive all the interest and penalties except the basic of the withholding taxes. Yun yung lagi nilang sinasabing mandatory. But the thing is, make sure that the basis of the mandatory is correct, not the entire amount. Because they do that. Whatever you see on the items on income tax, you will see it in the VAT, the expanded withholding, until the end of the assessment. It's a repetitive basis of assessment. So make sure that it is correct, it has a legal basis, so that you can compromise and pay only 40% of the basic. But if you are willing to sign a waiver because your company, one company of yours is already bankrupt and you want to close it, you can pay only 10% of the basic. But you need to sign a waiver of all the accounts of that company for them to check that it is really bankrupt. And I only recommend that if you are decided to close the company. Diba? It happens. Our first company is billion worth already, profitable. Second company good, but the third company is really lost, losing, no hope. It will not be connected. You can already settle that. Whatever pending assessment, you file for a compromise and just pay 10%. good for you if they don't ask you to sign a waiver of bank secrecy. But normally they will ask to make sure to check whether you still have money in the corporate account of that company or not. Then of course, abatement. The problem with abatement, they can get back on you. You pay, but it's not yet approved. So make sure when you file for abatement is waiver of penalties. When you file for abatement, this is the only time, I'll be very frank, that you need to make sure that the one whom you are filing the abatement is close to you, because he can turn back on you after you make the payment. In short, after you make the payment, they will still assess. That's the problem with abatement. So make sure when you opt to choose abatement, you really have a good relationship with the director so that he will defend you in the Regional Evaluation Board or REB. Because you need the approval of the payment. In short, payment first before approval. A bit crazy, but you know, when the assessment is really too high and abatement is appealing because it's lower, a lot lower, then that becomes an option. But here, it's important that you have a relationship, good relationship with the director. Otherwise, you pay, then they still assess. Useless. Last year, still pandemic, but we handled 26.3 billion total assessments. Name it, all sorts of assessments. There's Oplan Candado, there is benchmarking, there's VAT audit, there's LOA. And we only paid 19.4 million pesos in total. I always brag about that because I want you to have faith in yourself. That if you know you're doing the right thing, or more or less you listen to me carefully and you can follow it, you can divorce them and start anew. Don't give them too much information, especially wrong information. Shut up when they're talking to you, no comment. And don't ever insinuate or give them hope that you want to get back on them. Divorce na eh, wala nang second chance. Dapat wala nang balikan. Then this is something that you can attain. Based on experience, audit may not necessarily stop, but the assessment will change. There are cases wherein they just ask at least 10,000 pesos so that they have something to report. There are cases wherein they will just ask you to pay compromise penalty so that they have something to report. Because you have sealed all the leaks. Because you stop providing information to them. Because you stop talking. You don't negotiate until you have the numbers. And when you negotiate, you don't negotiate based on their assessment, but based on your assessment. Magkaiba po yun. And when you have your personal assessment, your exposure, that's the time you consider your budget. Don't negotiate until you know your exposure or what really went wrong. Otherwise, they will keep using that against you. You may have enjoyed the last 10 years giving them X amount, but on the 11th year, they can file a tax evasion case for the last 10 years as well. Because your records were never fixed. You just got a fixer or settled it under the table. The records are bad. So, be scientific, be professional, or at the very least, confuse them. Talk about increasing voluntary compliance, the 5% threshold, and the rest of the data that will make them see and believe and feel that you know what you're saying and that you did comply and that you're not ready to compromise or you don't want to compromise. Now, just briefly, para a bit summary of dealing with the BIR without compromises. So make sure you have the receipts. Don't claim any purchases when you don't have the receipts. What if my auditor, my accountant asked me to buy some receipts? Make sure when you do the alternative, you understand the risk. That's all that I will say. Don't jump into it just because somebody told you. Make sure that the letter of authority is valid. Probably 1 out of 10 laws issued is invalid, but nobody cared. Don't you know that if an examiner is what's the term? Reassigned or reshuffled, they need to issue a new LOA? How many times during the audit period that the RDO, the RD, the examiner is being changed? And yet we never receive anything. Nagbago lang yung tumatawag. The person contacting us suddenly is a different person and different number. Well, you might disagree with this, but I always ask our clients and taxpayers that we're helping, do not give the personal contact of the owner. Unless you are as tough as Rex. Do not. Say that the owner is in Australia, in New York, in Panama. It's not always available. Second, probably tomorrow you can do this. Send them a letter informing them of your authorized representative. And send that authorized representative to Dubai, to Japan. So that there is no authorized. I don't know if you know the John Lloyd case. John Lloyd case, I was an examiner in BIR. I'm saying this not because he's artista, because the case was funny. It was received by the security guard of his condo. Dismissed in court. Received by the security guard. Obviously not an authorized representative. So, again, if you want to talk about what is right, due process, can you make sure you know what is right? You know what is due process? And that you also follow it? Do not commit suicide. Do not incriminate yourself. Do not ever provide any information that will harm your company. Because the BIR will never know if we don't tell them. And even if somebody tells them, it cannot be a prima facie evidence. It's not as sweet and easy as us filing the tax return that we never check. That summary list of sales and purchases that we did not even check. Baka sumobra yung zero. Yung 1 million naging 1 billion. We never check. It was submitted. Boom. Exposure. Wrong tin. Fake tin. Nagkakaso ka pa tuloy. Simply because there was a typo error. Can I just tell them that there was a typo error before audit? During audit, no amendment is acceptable or allowed by law. Do whatever amendments you want. But why would you care? You did not even care before filing it. Why would you care after filing? That's our problem. That's not the problem of the accountant. That's not the problem of BIR because they're corrupt. Who's giving them the motive? Who's tempting them? Who's feeding them the information? Rex, fed us eh. Buffet pa eh. That's what you do eh. You give them a buffet. Provide everything. Please don't. It's better for you to receive a subpoena than provide all the information if you don't check it. If you're not sure that it won't expose you. Be honest when you're filing. It ends there. Not when you are dealing with them, especially during audit. I hope I am not committing any mortal sin. But please, just shut up. Okay? Now, since it became a controversy, let's now see the Mega World case. Mega World case, ang sarap ng buhay ko eh. I have a lot of case study. Every week there's something on the news eh. Mega World case study. Who heard about the Mega World? Okay, I won't tell you all the stories. I was given free dinner, so I'll only give you one story. The second and the third, I'll keep it to myself. Okay? This is the story. There was an issue on jurisdiction. Obviously, you know Mega World is a large taxpayer, right? But they may have subsidiary or branches that appeared to be operating, complying with the district, region, or whatsoever. Remember, the moment you file and pay something to RD, or not under the table, remit, file, even if you're not registered there, they now have jurisdiction over you. The same way, listen to this, the same way, you did not register for VAT, but for some reason, you as a new accountant who's so confused with himself or herself and use a VAT return and filed and paid VAT for you. BIR can now assess you with VAT, even if you're not VAT registered. because it triggered the system. Sino ulit ang mali? We provided it. You need to close that. You need to end that VAT because you started filing even if it's wrong. Don't wait for the audit. Don't wait for BIR to tell you what's wrong. You need to know it before they find it out. Going back to the Mega World case, there was actually a jurisdiction issue. But I'll give you half of the story. The RD is retiring. I suspect there was a negotiation that one broke or the promise or did not proceed with the arrangement. I am making a assumption. Second, the head of the Oplan Candado is the Deputy Commissioner for Operations. If you don't know him, it's Arnel Gubalya. You should know the personality, especially if you are, in one way or another, will interact with them. He's vying to be a commissioner. So there was, in a way, two motives. There's a guy retiring, and there's one who needs to show off that we're doing something. Unfortunately, the commissioner is on leave. There's a power play. What they missed is the owner of the Mega World is close to the president-elect. That ends the story, guys. I've never seen a media advisory in my years in BIR, in my years as an advocate, until this case. It came out, I don't know from where. Nobody should know that there will be an Oplan Candado or that there will be closure. It just happens. But for some reason, it was stopped. It was intercepted. So, anyway, just to give you an idea, what are the grounds or causes of Oplan Candado? It's not a major violation. Probably we have all violated this. Failure to issue a receipt. They can close your store for just an examiner pretending to be a customer. I remember, this is a giveaway, a flavored fries. I remember an examiner threatening me, we buy this flavored fries, they don't issue receipts. O buy in all the food stores, tell me how many will issue receipts. Don't talk about your dreams or imaginations or ambitions to me. If you talk about violations, make sure I'm the only one committing that or you have made everyone comply with that. Money is not the way to deal with them. No, he's harassing me. He's using it against my client. So I have to throw something to him. Don't use that to me. That's a wrong card. You can buy in all franchise stores and all food stalls. I don't care. But show me how many will issue receipts, especially if it's below 100 pesos. Because under the train law, 100 pesos and above is required to have OR. What if my flavored fries is 99 pesos? I mean, don't be bullied. But at the very least, show off as if you're trying to bully them. It might work. Failure to file value-added tax return or VAT. If you are a VAT registered, that can result to Oplan Candado. And this is funny. Registration. How many of you are practically putting some of your inventory in an unregistered room space? If BIR finds out, they can file Oplan Candado. Because the regulation is clear. I'm not threatening you, I'm telling you. Even if it is a server, there's nothing there, it's just our server. In Rockwell 1, it's just a server. But it's still the server of the company. It should be registered as a facility. It's an empty warehouse. We only use it when there are extra inventory or stocks. It's still the asset of the company, or probably there's a lease contract under the name of the company. It should be registered. Mind you, you don't need to pay taxes other than 500 pesos annual registration fee. But all assets, facilities, locations being used in operation should be declared before BIR. If they find out, which is one of our experiences, and this is handled by a big firm, I don't know, for some reason they forgot or overlooked, the warehouse has everything. They paid 100%, but the warehouse has all the inventories, but it was not registered. Unfortunately, they were doing some deals before. And they did not agree before Christmas na inip yung examiner. Puk! Kinandado. Can they do that? Ayun eh. It's clear eh. That's why I'm telling you, in one way or another, we may have violated this without us knowing. But whether the BIR will file a case or close the business, it's up to them if they find out or if they will pursue it. Then, that's why I always say, we have to know our business more than anyone else. Yes, Mon, that's correct. We know our business more than anyone else. Oh, how come you are afraid of BIR? You only provide them information. Therefore, make sure you don't provide them information that's enough for them to run after you or sue you. So it's really our responsibility. That's why now, our campaign is good governance. Reminding CEOs, founders, business owners, blame no one except yourself. Why you are in this situation. You can blame the accountant, but it won't help. How many times do you change your accountant? How many times do you change your consultant? How many times we change RDOs, commissioners? There's only one person who's not changed. You! Why look elsewhere? Okay? But as I have mentioned, I hope this will help us resolve to divorce or end that bad relationship or practice. And hopefully, whatever I have shared you tonight will not just be beneficial, but you will see the light that there's actually benefit in doing the right thing. And it may not be perfect. We may still have flaws. We may still have non-compliance. But not to the point that we are committing suicide and making the job of the examiner easy. You have to let them do their job. But we have to make sure we comply with the regulations. So without knowing it, our rights, the due process, I don't think will ever be ready to get rid of BIR audit. So don't go back to me and tell me, Mon, I still can't get rid of BIR audit. I think you're the only one and that's not fair. No, I've shared to you what I know. I've shared to you what we're doing. What I did not share to you are the stories which you don't need to know. But everything that you experience, that people we have helped, I've shared with you. It's up to you now to take the responsibility. Okay? So let me just share with you. I'm leaving for Harvard next month. So we're really reaching out to as much CEOs so that we can really influence them and help them do the right thing. And in fact, next week I have a special session for CEOs. I think that's the next one. I don't want giving seminars, lectures, RR 1, 2, 3, RMC. I want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about bullshits. I only want to talk about real cases, how they're settled, how you will settle it. And this session is not for accountants, not for your assistants, really only for exclusive to owners, decision makers, those who are giving money to the examiners. Because you're the only one who can stop that. You're the only one who can get rid of audit. And if you will have a little faith in me, you can take a risk. Before I leave for Harvard, I will be doing face-to-face exclusive executive tax management. So next week we have one, but probably the slot is already full. But if you're interested, just let me know. At least 3 CEOs will do it. Real cases, no halubalus. Hopefully this will give you not just insights, but strategies, and to let you know what you need to stop and what you need to do, because you're the boss. You should not be blaming the accountants or your alalais. And you should stop blaming the corrupt system, which we actually in one way or another tolerated for so long. So it won't stop. Because while tax administration is crucial in improving our tax system or in making sure that the collection will be improved, equally important in addressing tax evasion and smuggling is what? Addressing graft and corruption. We need to eradicate graft and corruption. How do we demand honesty from the government if we are so guilty of not filing our taxes? How do we demand honesty from whoever or the commissioner or the examiner, if we're so guilty of lapses, which we only committed because we did not pay attention, and we leave it to our accountants. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, if you still have faith in the goodness of every Filipino and for a better Philippines, it's high time to divorce our bad practices, to stop what we think we keep doing that cause us more problems, and to really do the right thing. So as I have said, while tax administration is crucial in improving tax collection, an efficient tax system requires a whole government approach. My article this week is about how do we hold our government officials accountable. Is that important? Yes, because we pay taxes. We want to make sure that the taxes go back to the Filipino people through public service without graft and corruption. And as I've shared earlier before the start of the program, there are at least 3 to 5 laws that will perpetually disqualify government officials or politicians for failure to file and honest in doing their SALN, in their statement of campaign expenditures, contributions and expenditures, and their taxes. So imagine if we can only hold our government accountable and that we will be accountable as well, it might be a better place to live in. Flat tax system might be possible. I'm thinking of flat 10%. I don't know what is acceptable to you. But these are not mere proposals or advocacies. These are research. It requires expertise, understanding and studying the taxes around the world and what works and what doesn't work. The proposed digital tax of Congressman Salceda is about scary because it's simply imposing 12%. It doesn't define cryptocurrency. It doesn't define the new platforms. It doesn't acknowledge blockchain. So what exactly is the digital tax? If it's only after imposing 12% on Netflix subscription or on Spotify, that's not digital tax. That's just additional tax. And if I'll be very frank with you, we don't need a law to impose 12% VAT. It's clear in our existing tax code. Whatever comes in, whatever is consumed here, there's 12% VAT unless otherwise exempted by law. And there's no exemption for Netflix. There's no exemption for Spotify. Therefore, there should be 12% VAT. We don't need another law. So I think it's obvious at this point that while we may not agree or support all legislators, congressmen, and senators, we need to work with our government. We need to work with them so that we will have better laws, so that they will repeal, revisit the existing law. Because it's important to make it fair, simple, and equitable, so that whether you are poor, rich, domestic, foreign, corporate, individual, NGO, or whatever form or type of business or activities you are doing, it will be easy for you to pay taxes, and that it will be fair for all, not just for those who are caught or those who do not have connections or who do not know me. Diba? Baka sabihin niyo ako si connection. Okay? But as part of our advocacy, on June 1, we are launching the 2.0. It's TaxWiz PH 2.0. You can actually download now, TaxWiz PH. If you have any questions, don't ask for my number anymore. Just download this. You can ask questions for free. Just don't talk about story 2 and 3. Just ask simple tax questions, okay? We have tax experts who answers to, not 24/7, within 24 hours. You will get a reply for free because that is our advocacy. TaxWiz PH mobile app. And as mentioned earlier, we have actually our book, 100% of the proceeds go to our foundation, CSR Philippines. Center for Strategic Reforms of the Philippines is the advocacy partner of DTI, BIR, and the Anti-Red Tape Authority. So for every purchase, you're actually helping fund our advocacy. And on June 1, we are also launching a new book that's Iwas Visit, the 2022 edition. It's a Q&A format of tax book wherein your most frequently asked tax questions about train law, create law, amnesty, whatever, digital tax, online tax, whatever taxes here in the Philippines, especially those passed during this outgoing administration, are all available there. Mainit pa sa pandesal. It will be, it's available on Lazada and Shopee, and you can also do bulk orders so that you can help support our foundation. As I have said, I would just like to reiterate, this is not for me. You're not paying for my trip. 100% will go to our foundation. So I hope you can support it, and you can follow us on social media and visit our website. If you want a reliable, updated tax information, walang fake news, walang kinikilingan. Ako naman yung kadugtong nun. But I hope this time we try to own up to our responsibilities, to the decisions that we make. Never commit suicide. And after tonight, I hope some people will consider divorcing your bad past. Maraming salamat po, and I hope you continue to support our advocacy.
Thank you. Unfortunately, my mic's not working, but we'll have VP Lal Chaplani and President Rex join us for a quick Q&A session. I'm gonna quote you, Mon Obrera. The one thing that I take from this tonight is you said, audits may not stop, but the assessment will change. So that's my key takeaway, but I think there are still more questions on the floor.
Mic test, there you go. Wow, that was amazing. Mon, thank you. Thank you very much. So folks, are we still okay for some questions? All right, super. My boss, Lal, will start the lead as in the fireside chat. Please, Lal.
Much that was very enlightening and gives us some hope at the an assignment. Okay. No, we'll try to make questions brief and try to get the maximum that we can for the next few minutes. Okay. New administration is coming in. If you were to give 3 proposals for changes, what would be the top 3?
You won't believe this, but double the budget of BIR so that we get to attract more technocrats, more professionals, tax experts, lawyers, high caliber people who can really collect the right taxes and run after the big guys. That's the first, really double their budget, especially to fund modernization and digital transformation. We cannot be left behind. We cannot possibly collect taxes when their system cannot even stay for 24 hours. It always goes down, diba? So the second one is declare general tax amnesty with the lifting of bank secrecy. Maybe unlikely, but that's the only way to clear the backlogs and to really empower BIR to file direct cases, not anymore through DOJ, but of course, really making them accountable that they could just file any case. And the third one, believe it or not, I hope we can really prosecute a big-time tax evader, send someone to jail, because that's the only way we can really set a deterrent. Otherwise, everything is negotiated and there's no really real fear in violating our tax code.
As a follow-up on that, for the general tax amnesty, it was vetoed by President Duterte. Why do you think it was vetoed, and what needs to be done to refile it?
Well, I think it was explained in the report. The law that he signed, that he wanted the bank secrecy, lifting of bank secrecy, to be part of it, so that there will be more collections. Otherwise, general tax amnesty will only be abused by those who just want to get away in paying taxes.
And do you think that will happen in our lifetime?
Not in this administration, probably. Not next administration.
Right.
Okay, we'll try to do this the Boy Abunda style, which is fast, okay? So how does one correct his dirty books and clean it up if the company wants to go completely straight? Many companies want to go straight but do not know how to clean up or laundry their books to prepare them for being straight. Keeping in mind that financial statements are presented based on 2-year comparative.
Move on. Just forget about it. You cannot really clear it or correct it. When you're decided to do it the right way, start today. Forward.
So when you're audited, for example, for this year,
don't show the book. You lost it.
The FS.
Burn it.
The FS shows last year. So for example, your inventory is inflated last year. Is that okay lang? Can they question that?
No, they can do the mathematical work back computation. It's templated. It's not acceptable as legal basis. It's just an assumption. The AR beginning, AR ending. That's accounting. Tax law is different from accounting.
Okay, so just go for it, cold turkey.
Yeah, just pay the penalty. Oh, I lost my books. Pay 50,000.
Okay, got it. Lal?
You mentioned something about corruption, graft and corruption.
Did I? Okay, sorry.
How do you propose to eliminate it?
The graft and corruption? That was actually in my article. Disqualify everyone who has violated the laws that require SALN, SOSE, and tax returns. Baka wala matira. I mean, seriously, if we really just follow what is provided in the Code of Ethics, the Anti-Graft and Corruption, Omnibus Election Code, we may be left with probably less than 10 qualified politicians. I don't know.
That's more than enough.
Okay, can taxpayers refuse to submit documents that are already filed online and in their portal? Example, VAT return, withholding tax, SLSP, etc.
They don't need to refuse, just ignore it because there's already a revenue issuance that BIR examiners or during audit that they should not ask anymore for filed returns or whatever information submitted to BIR. I forgot, sorry, I can't remember the RMC or whatever. But you can just Google it.
For letters of authority, is there a deadline for the examiners to have a closure?
Actually, I've clarified it several times. What was provided is not in the tax code, but in a revenue issuance. The 180 days and the 240 days and the 360, it's not actually mandatory. It's like an internal guide, which they don't follow anymore. But what is in the law is the 3-year prescription, wherein they should have issued a formal assessment before the end of the 3-year prescription period, and the letter of authority should be received within 30 days from the date of the letter of authority or issuance. Ibig sabihin, if the letter is undated, ignore it, don't receive it. There should be date. All communications from BIR should have a date, especially the letter of authority.
Okay, when the BIR matches the data of a buyer and seller when it comes to VAT or withholding tax, and they find someone claimed input even if the taxpayer did not sell to them, aside from simply denying it, what legal steps can the taxpayer do?
Ask your supplier to certify your claim.
What if it's someone that you don't know, or you're a buyer, for example, who just used your name?
Well, you just have to protest it and quote the Supreme Court decision. There's a jurisprudence already. So 2 things you can do. If they use third-party information, get a certification that will go against the third-party listing from the listed or identified supplier. If you cannot identify for some reason, it's a stranger, it's a random supplier and all, quote the Supreme Court decision that it is not a legal basis for an assessment.
Is there such a thing as a concept of compliance in good faith with BIR?
Yeah, there's compliance in good faith, except that they don't acknowledge it as a defense.
Is it a legal defense?
In good faith?
Yeah.
No, because they need evidence. Remember the burden of proof. Good faith is not proof.
Not sufficient.
Yeah, there should be a substantiation.
Are the benchmarks for income tax and VAT fixed per industry? Is this legal? What happens if a company is fully compliant and is told he's not within benchmark?
Benchmarking notice is illegal. There's no legal basis. Just reply.
What is the one that you said a while ago? 2%, 3%?
Yeah, the 2%, the
Threshold.
3%, you can read the entire National Internal Revenue Code. There's no threshold. There's no benchmarking. It's not there's no legal basis for that. They're just using it as a guide, as a threshold. That's why I was telling you earlier, you can use it in your favor if you meet the threshold. But if they make an assessment based on the threshold, it's not founded. It's not enough.
So we can contest when they make that as the main basis for assessing.
Yeah.
How do we go about treating expenses which are purely reimbursements? Example, our employee buys an airline ticket. There's no receipt showing our company name, and we still have to pay withholding tax. How do we go about that? Because we're not able to execute the withholding tax forms.
That actually remains unclear because unlike before, you can withhold and just put 000 as TIN number or just make a name, a supplier, whatever. But now with the relief system, that will be impossible to do. So I think the risk there is not to put it in an account that is obviously subject to withholding and junk it in another account that they may still assess for withholding, but it is not clearly subject to withholding. If you know what I'm saying, like miscellaneous, labor, whatever, I'm sorry for the term, reclassify it, put it somewhere. Not like professional fees, but you were not able to withhold. Fuck, why do you put it in the professional fees? Put it somewhere.
Okay, when we use a corporate credit card for expenses, please confirm that we no longer need to issue a Form 2307 for withholding tax for payments.
Yes, anything paid using your company or corporate credit card, you don't need to withhold from the suppliers or the income payment. But you need to withhold from the credit card company or the bank upon settlement of the bills or the paid.
We have to withhold from our credit card company
bank.
payment?
Yes, that's
And
so
so
far
it's the credit card company that withholds now from the supplier.
No. No, it's you who should withhold when you pay the credit card company. But that's like 2%, so that's a lot better than withholding from different suppliers.
And does the credit card company withhold from the supplier?
No, not anymore.
Okay.
That's why if you cannot withhold, best to use the corporate credit card because that will lessen the exposure of mandating you to withhold from any random supplier like a gas station in Baguio that you just pass through and gas up. How can you withhold from a random gas station? But if you use the corporate credit card, then you just withhold when you settle the bills in your credit card company.
The BIR has issued new rulings on transfer of property in exchange for shares. Are the new rules on this out already, implementing rules?
I'm not sure if they're really strictly implementing it already, but the problem there is we are now already in the transition. So it's already there, but I haven't heard of transactions executed. So we may have to play it by ear whether they don't need a ruling anymore and it's cleared.
Okay. A follow-up on that. If they do issue the implementing rules, do you think, can such exchange of property for shares, can the property now be based, can the value of the property be based on appraised value, or does it have to be the book value of the donor?
Well, based on the exchange, it should be the book value. So,
but then
appraised or the book value of the transferor?
The
So if
owner.
if I'm transferring to a corporation, what value is used? Is it my book value or depreciated value?
If it's being transferred in exchange for shares, it should be I think it's the appraised value. It should be the appraised value.
Okay. And further to that, if I transfer property with an appraised value of 20 million to the corporation in exchange for shares, will the corporation now be eligible to depreciate that property because it's a building?
If it's already the property of the company, yes, it now goes through
So
the
it's
normal
subject to
process.
depreciation.
Normal process of depreciation.
Okay, is it true that there is a BIR ruling that goods on consignment for more than 60 days is deemed sold or as a sale? How is this handled if the goods are really still on consignment? An examiner said that the balance on consignment has to be redocumented as a new delivery. Thus, the examiner subjected the company to VAT and income tax.
Number one, ruling is per case basis. It cannot be applied to all. It's not a Supreme Court decision or a jurisprudence. Number two, it's not in the law. It's just an interpretation of the previous commissioner. So if I were in that industry, I would ask for a revenue issuance that will reverse the previous interpretation, the interpretation of the previous commissioner, because it's not in the tax code. It was just a circular issuance of the previous commissioner, which was not reversed even during this administration.
Because our accountant in particular has asked us to reissue the delivery to just document that it's not an old delivery made to the stores.
As I have said, the shortcut is for you to ask for a ruling for your company, but that will not apply to other companies. So the best is to reverse the previous interpretation.
From a taxation point of view, is it better to buy property in a personal name or corporate name?
Under the new rules and the practices, personal, because if it's corporation, any transfer will be subject to 12% VAT.
You have created a brand for yourself where you are referred to as a Philippines tax whiz. How did you do this?
It was not actually me, but Secretary Man Lopez. When he met me at one of the Go Negosyo events, and he learned about the advocacy, he started calling me tax whiz. And that's the time that I wrote a book, which, by the way, nobody bought, but I wrote another book. So until the tax whiz was linked to me, then I published, got a question about taxes, hashtag Ask the Tax Whiz, which became a bestseller because I bought the books from National Bookstore. So that started it. And I just had to live by it, meaning to make sure that I am updated, I remain relevant, credible. That's it. That's how it happened.
Nag-issue ka ba ng OR?
Yes. Actually, from the start, it was foundation. The books were never a revenue for us. It was always to fund the advocacy. That's why it's a shameless plugging to buy or deal with organizations because it's not for me.
Why did you leave the BIR, and can you share what goes on in the mind of a BIR examiner, supervisor, RDO, etc., when they deal with us taxpayers?
When I was in BIR and when we talk about assessments, the numbers are 50, 30, 20. Whatever deal, 50% goes to the RDO, which we need to remit. 20% goes to the supervisor, which we need to remit. 30% goes to the examiner, that's me. So that's the language. I wasn't brought up that way. I did not apply to BIR to be an examiner. I was asked to help promote good governance and study the tax system, why there is so much corruption. And that is the good governance advocacy of former Finance Secretary Justice Stanislao. So in short, I was reporting to him what's happening in BIR, what were the cases I'm handling, until one day I was assigned to a sale of property somewhere in Timog, where there was an old building, unfinished building. And I had to declare it as with improvements because there was a building, like a 5-7 floor building. But my head, the RDO, wants me to report it as no improvement. Obviously, with all the under the tables, there was no proof, there was no document. I can tell you that I donated it, but there's also no proof that I donated it. But this one, my name and my signature will appear in the report that there was no improvement when there was a building. So instead of submitting the report, I file a resignation and just inform the RDO that I'm leaving for Harvard, which is not true because I did not apply for Harvard in 2010. But this year I applied and I'm leaving for Harvard. That's true already.
That's good. It is said that many accountants are part of the problem where they get a cut in the settlement of tax cases or tax assessments. To avoid this, would you say it's better option for the company owners to face the RDO directly?
Number one, I believe that it's really top to bottom. If the accountant is an employee and the accountant knows that the company is really trying to do the right thing and it's not into compromises, I think the accountant will do the right thing. But if he or she knows that it's okay to bribe, they will also get a cut. Because normally, well, from my experience, they have already a reputation or a value how much they will get, 5%, 10% of the settlement. So it's not like they want it, but it will be offered or it's there.
They're offered back.
The cut or the commission. That's why I told you earlier, there are a lot of commissioners in doing transactions. But I honestly don't recommend owners revealing or exposing themselves to BIR because we handled the case wherein the the owner had a heart attack because of the BIR harassing him and knocking on his door directly, which should not happen. No personal number, no personal residence, etc. should be given to the BIR. So to me, unlike Rex, my point of view is hide the owners, the decision makers, but have somebody you can trust. And hopefully an in-house, a loyal, most trustworthy employee. But he is not competent, he is inefficient. Better to have her trained than get somebody who will represent you, who will also after the cut or the commission.
I'm changing careers. I'm going to apply as his assistant. So I can be the Philippines tax whiz assistant.
I thought you said
And-
you're going to be a priest.
And bagman.
FYI, in our office, nobody is allowed to receive cash. So, kasi nobody.
Now that's amazing.
Cash also.
Mon, galing what you've done, the brand that
Extra
you've built for
rice,
yourself.
but no cash.
Sorry, we have one question from the audience. Earlier you mentioned, so of books lost or burned in floods or what may be, is the penalty really 50,000?
No, if you filed the affidavit of loss before audit, there's no penalty. You were in good faith. But if you filed it during the audit or you presented during the audit, the penalty will apply, 50,000 pesos.
So that includes burned, flood.
No, they won't accept it anymore because the affidavit should have been filed before the audit.
Okay.
So if you will just say, oh, it got burned, lost, but you don't have notarized before the date of audit, remember there's a 45-day period, ha? Kapag nanakawan ka, if you have a case of embezzlement or typhoon, casualty, or whatever, it's not like that you have 1 year under the train law to mourn and file your estate tax return. Here you have 45 days to report it to BIR with the blatter, barangay clearance, the picture. If within 45 days you were not able to file, you cannot claim it anymore as losses. And if these are accountable forms or required schedules, they will no longer allow waiver of penalties because you missed the 45-day period. So prepare the affidavit in anticipation of any losses. I lost my mind and my memory.
Here's another question, Mon. Let's say a company received a large assessment and tax delinquency from the BIR district and regional levels. When do you suggest it's best to escalate the issue to the Court of Tax Appeals, especially knowing that the lower districts are looking for fixing fees, which make the overall payable much higher than it should be?
You don't. You have to exhaust your legal remedies. And your remedy within the BIR is the commissioner. So unless you filed for reinvestigation or reconsideration and disapproved by the commissioner, that's the time that you go to court. Otherwise, you exhaust your remedy up to the commissioner.
Mon, can you give us, is there anywhere we can see the benchmarks for each industry as far as payments for VAT and for income tax?
No, the standard is really 5. 2% for income tax, 3% for VAT, which may vary. It's like margin of error, plus, minus. But I don't think they make it public until you receive a benchmark. I don't think it's like a zonal value that you can reference by going to the website of BIR. But within your industry, your colleagues, when you receive a letter, you will know in your industry, this is the benchmark or the threshold that they're using. But the standard, 2% for income tax based on gross, 3% for VAT based on gross. But plus minus. And again, that's not a liability, that's not even a valid assessment. So don't even pay just because they said, oh, you're below threshold, blah, blah, blah. That's not a valid assessment. They're just trying to trigger you to admit that you made a mistake. Remember, if there's a benchmark, there are 3 options. Amend your return, submit the documents, or explain why there was a discrepancy. It's not like pay. No, they didn't tell you to pay. They gave you 3 options.
So
would you amend the return, meaning admitting that you made a mistake? Would you show proof that you actually complied and that was a wrong computation? Or you will explain why you were not able to meet the threshold?
Can we quote you and tell them that there's no such thing as a 2%.
I am not a tax law. You can only quote jurisprudence, tax codes regulations.
Just take out this book. We show the
No, but
book.
this is no joke. In the even during the time of NRS, not in Manila, in the provinces, we had a T-shirt with my face, with my as the tax whiz. People started wearing it because we give it away during our road show. And whenever the examiner will see the T-shirt or they're holding the book while asking, the examiner becomes very nice to them because they know I was tagged as a public enemy #1 of BIR then. Because now we are partners. So it really comes with certain confidence and conviction. Don't think that I am special and because I can do it. Believe it in yourself and be confident that you've done something and send that message to them. Diba? But mentioning my name is double-edged. If they are a fan, they like me, good. If they don't like me, good luck.
No, so I think we have no more questions. Mon, on behalf of the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and on behalf of the Filipino people, maraming salamat po. You are doing something that we all need. Your advocacy is amazing. Count on our chamber as your partner. We look forward to continue to working with you in Go Negosyo, in the Senate, in Congress. Count on us, sir. Again, maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Rex and everyone. Maraming salamat. I hope we all wake up tomorrow with new hope and with resolve, with resolution that we can do it better. Maraming salamat po. Good night. You don't leave the room without buying the book. I will issue LOA. Just kidding.
Once again, thank you very much, Mon Abrera. That was very informative and engaging. So, of course, the Federation of Indian Commerce of the Philippines would like to present a plaque of appreciation to Mr. Mon Abrera, CPA, MBA, in his appreciation and gratitude for participating as a guest of honor and speaker at the tax forum held here at Shangri-La Fort. So we'd like to hand over this to you and obviously take a photo. So once again, thank you to all our members, guests, past president, past board, and our current board for your time this evening. We look forward to seeing you in future engaging events such as this. I believe the bar is still open, but without further ado, a warm good evening and good night to all.
Could we ask the members of the board to come forward, please? The members of the board, please, could you come forward?